This right here is the 2023 annual Premier League table. It's not that surprising, is it? Man City leading the way, no surprises there. Arsenal not too far behind them. Liverpool, even Man United around the same sort of areas. Goes to show you that every team goes through ups and downs. But there's a fifth team here that I've yet to mention. One that isn't exactly like the others. It's Aston Villa. Third place. And good value for it too. Unai Emery and the Villains are doing something pretty crazy. Almost at the halfway point, and while some teams have started at breakneck speeds and slowed down, and others are just starting to find their feet, Aston Villa have stayed the course all the way so far. Exceeding expectations is putting it lightly. Executing the line so high, Robbie Fowler would be proud, picking up points left, right and center, carrying their form over to Europe. There's a lot to be excited about when it comes to these boys. There are a lot of questions on a lot of people's minds though. Where did this come from? Who made this possible? And how far can they go? Today, we'll try to answer one or two of those questions, hopefully, maybe. Hello everyone, what's going on? I'm Tinashe, welcome back to the channel. Aston Villa are probably the surprise package of the season so far, based on table placement, of course, but based on a hell of a lot more. However, maybe we shouldn't be surprised. If we take things back to where they were before all of this, we start to understand why. It's literally only been 4 years since Aston Villa were in the Championship. It's been 5 years since the club were under threat of administration after missing a £4.2 million tax payment. Amongst other problems, they were reportedly hours away from collapse. Gaining promotion in 2019 was a huge relief, I'm sure. Although the first 2 years back were a bit of a mixed bag. They battled relegation all the way throughout 1920, only managing to stay up on the final day thanks to favourable results elsewhere, namely Arsenal beating Watford on the final day. In 2021, they lost Jack Grealish to Man City, gained £100 million though, so fair enough. And then in 21-22, after a horrendous start to the year, former manager Dean Smith was fired after only 11 games. In came Steven Gerrard.
Yeah, of course.
This was not the best moment in Villa history. I'm pretty sure every Villa fan would be quick to admit that. But at the same time, there was a lot of interest in Steven Gerrard and how he would fit into this whole project. Would he be able to bring on the form that made him so successful in Rangers to Villa Park? Could this be the start of a glittering career at the top level of football management? No, it was not. 40 games in charge of Aston Villa, 13 won, 19 lost. There were a lot of moments that Villa fans and Gerrard himself would probably rather forget. Drawing against Palace on the 40th anniversary of Aston Villa's European Cup win was amongst them. Times have definitely changed since 1982. Gerrard made a lot of questionable decisions during his time there, many of which rubbed fans the wrong way. Stripping Tyrone Mings of the captaincy while he was injured was one of them. The message was that Mings needed to earn his way back to captaincy. Fair, but it seemed a little harsh. Many thought it was unjust. Having said all of that, for all of Gerrard's faults at Villa, he did have a tangible impact on the team. Lucas Digne, Philippe Coutinho, Leander Dendoncker, they all are said to have signed because of the influence of Steven Gerrard. He personally attended to those signings before they came on. At the same time, even though some players that came in under him are now performing, many did not while he was there. Philippe Coutinho was one of them. He plays in Qatar now. Gerrard wasn't exactly helped by the lackluster performances by other new signings that came in right before him. Leon Bailey, Danny Ings, Emiliano Buendia. Again, these weren't his signings, but it didn't matter. He was the manager. Ultimately, the results were not going his way. The fans had begun to turn on him. He had the backing of the board throughout. Players that were requested were brought in. What were the excuses? A 3-0 loss to Fulham was the last straw. For Unai Emery, it's hard to pick an exact spot to start with his involvement in this story. We could take it to the very beginning, from his days as a youth player with Real Sociedad, or the 14 years that followed as a professional footballer, which was cut short after a knee injury. Or we talk about his coaching career, which started in 2004 and led him to Sevilla, where he became the final boss of the Europa League. Back to back to back is insane. Or we could talk about his days in Paris, where he coached a team where he himself has admitted that players held more control than he did. However, because this video is about English football, perhaps the best place to start is with Arsenal. His dismissal from Arsenal. It's been 4 years since Emery was let go by Arsenal, a sacking which some saw coming, but which equally as many people did not. Emery formed part of the latter group. He had some really good moments at the Emirates. A 22-game unbeaten streak, including 17 wins in late 2018, was one of them. Falling out with Mesut Ozil was one of them. Going winless in the 7 games that preceded his sacking was another. Say what you want about him, but Unai Emery did a lot for Arsenal. Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Martinelli, Eddie Nketiah, they were all integrated into the first team under Unai Emery. William Saliba was signed under Emery too. I'm still of the opinion that it didn't really matter who was put in place after Wenger left the club, they were destined to fail. Something that we as fans always tend to forget is that football clubs are businesses just like the companies we all work for. There's good leadership, there's bad leadership, and in cases like Arsene Wenger, Sir Alex Ferguson, and probably so many more coaches, they don't purely focus on football. They tackle many roles. Not everyone works like that. And judging by numerous reports, it seems that Unai Emery doesn't either. Football is his main objective. Damian Vidagani, Aston Villa's director of football, and also a man that's been close to Emery since they both worked at Valencia in 2008, had this to say. I've seen people that are different types of leaders. The leadership of Unai is in the football side. He doesn't spend any other minutes thinking about something other than football. That quote alone tells you a lot about where his priorities lie. He is obsessive, sometimes to a fault. Back to Arsenal though, from what it seems, he was not given the luxury of being able to only focus on his main area of interest. He was expected to do more. He failed to do so. Of course, this isn't exactly a scathing indictment on his abilities as a manager. He does need to hold some of the blame for how things went there, but at the same time, you kind of have to admit he probably just wasn't in the right place. And I tell you what, I'm willing to bet a lot of money that Mikel Arteta would not be as successful as he is at Arsenal right now if he had been the one that came in straight after Wenger. I'm pretty sure both Arsenal and Unai Emery had a lot to learn from that experience. They both grew. For Unai Emery, next up was Villarreal. Back to his native Spain. Another Europa League win came in his first season back. Newcastle were after him before they went with Eddie Howe. But then he made a move that some might not have expected. Aston Villa. A club is not only football, it's a big universe where there are many people who you need to motivate. If you don't motivate people, don't expect them to deliver their best. More words from Vidagani. With him, Unai Emery, and Ramon Verdejo, or Monchi, as the president of football operations, Villa have formed a holy trinity of sorts that seems to be working wonders for them. Monchi is another heavyweight in the world of sporting directors, previously the director of Sevilla and then Roma. He handles football operations, scouting, agents, etc. Emery handles all things actual gameplay, and Vidagani bridges the gap. Apart from that, Villa's staff structure has been completely revamped and shaped in the image of Unai Emery. He has the infrastructure around him that he probably didn't have at Arsenal. He's had Villa hire people he trusts. He's had Villa break transfer records. He has the complete backing. And the result is that Villa are having the best season that they've had in years. Decades even. But that's enough backroom talk. What we all really care about is how they're doing this and what they're doing on the pitch that's making them grind out these results after results. And honestly, it's a lot of things. The player behavior seems to be indicating the right stuff, for one thing. There are a lot of details, a lot of thinking, and a lot of concentration required from us. He's making people concentrate that I didn't think were capable. I'm not naming names. John McGinn, club captain, had this to say, which is fair enough. Major buy-in is 100% necessary when you look at how high the defensive line for this team is. I get panic attacks whenever I take a look at it myself. A 7th place finish last year was the best by a Villa side since they finished 6th back in 2010. And they had good value for this finish too. Gerrard was sacked on the 20th of October 2022, and the very next day, Unai Emery came in from 17th place and prepping for a relegation scrap when Gerrard was sacked to 7th and in the Conference League by the end of it all. That's not too bad, you know. As we saw right at the start of the video, fast forward to the end of the year, and we have Villa 3rd in the annual table. They've made Villa Park into a fortress. In the last 14 league games at the time of recording this video, they've won every single one at home. a record that equals one that was set back in the 30s. They just hosted treble winners Manchester City at home, and I've yet to see City be pressed and forced to defend as deep as they were doing at times in this match. And they won, convincingly. Their only goal may have come from a Leon Bailey deflection in the 74th minute, but it was coming all night. Emery really means business. So let's briefly talk tactics and how they line up and show what they can do on the pitch. Throwing it back to a classic era, Villa line up in a 4-4-2 for the most part, and on paper, that's still the case. They switch it up throughout each match based on the situation. This team is very compact, making sure to leave very little space between the lines. They defend in a mid-block, are strict at staying in their positions, and know when to be patient in defense and press as a unit, as not to break structure and create unwanted space. When possession is won back, they break at pace, which obviously works really well against teams that press high. When they win the ball back, the only direction that the ball goes in is forward. Nothing else. Only forward. The positivity behind this team when it comes to forward play is really a joy to behold. Manchester City found that out the hard way. Now, Villa have actually employed a mid-block and high pressing for several years now, even before Emery came. I'm sure a lot of people will remember Villa's demolition job of Liverpool back in 2021. A 7-2 win with almost every goal stemming from Villa just making a nuisance of themselves and taking every chance that they can. They're also really quick to get into their desired shape depending on whatever sequence is happening on the ball, which is made even more impressive due to the fact that they do play that high defensive line. About 2 weeks ago, this image of a still from Sky was doing the rounds. Since November 22, just look at the gap between Villa and the rest when it comes to successful offsides traps. Pau Torres and Diego Carlos step up quicker than most attackers can comprehend. Before the attacker can even piece together what's going on, the flag is up. Heung-min Son found that out the hard way when Villa took 3 points from him and Spurs. Ollie Watkins has some stellar movement up top, and his patience has to be praised too. Against Bournemouth, I thought he was invisible all game, just for him to quietly work hard throughout the second half and pop up with an equalizer to make the game 2-2 in the final moments of the game. The midfield is probably the strongest point in my eyes. These players provide a range of skills, ball-winning ability, creativity, and goal-scoring threat. And they work very hard. Douglas Luiz, Boubacar Kamara, and John McGinn have been fantastic. Very well-drilled and disciplined players. Same goes for Yuri Tielemans. Leon Bailey seems to have found the form that he left in Bayer Leverkusen before he came to Villa in 2021. Moussa Diaby, Villa's record signing at £52 million and Bayer Leverkusen's top scorer from last season, has slotted in well and is contributing nicely. The fullbacks of Matty Cash and Lucas Digne have done a very good job when it comes to finding their flow in both defense and attack. Ezri Konsa has also done really well as a makeshift right back over the past few games, although he's probably better suited to being a centre back. And then there's Emi Martinez. He's good. We know he's good. And he's crazy. But seriously, his shot-stopping ability is unbelievable. He is a large reason for why Villa drew against Bournemouth in the first place. Bournemouth could have scored a lot more. There is a lot to be excited about when it comes to the players and the development of Aston Villa as a whole. Almost every player that features regularly has improved over the past year and a bit. They may not be as naturally gifted or technically talented as players in some of the larger teams, but they are making the best of the abilities they've got with impressive efficiency. And the owners of this club are clearly very ambitious. If Emery keeps this up, the points, the results, all of that, your guess is as good as mine when it comes to the freedoms that he's going to be allowed going forward in this Villa position. You know, let's say for example, in the transfer market. How far can they go? Truth be told, I have no idea. But based on 2023, I wouldn't put it past him going even further beyond. But even more truth be told, I've had a bit of a nightmare when it comes to predicting how teams will play going forward. Often when I praise a team, they go on to lose the very next game or just have a very subpar performance. When I talk about how bad a team is and how bad their situation is, they go on and win the next game. I'll give you an example. I wanted to drop this video on Sunday before they played Bournemouth because I was convinced that they were going to beat them. And then they didn't. Bournemouth made them look pretty ordinary the entire match. And then they went ahead and beat Man City. Putting me aside, I think they have something special. Time will tell how special. And there we have it. Let me know what you guys think about Aston Villa. Feel free to comment all your thoughts below. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to follow all the socials. That's all for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you're having a great day. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.